Welcome to Employee Benefit Plans and Business Sense.
Hey everyone, welcome into an all-new episode of Employee Benefit Plans and Business Sense with Dal Lank and Kathleen Bass over at KLB Benefits Law Group. I am your host, Mike Leon. Dal and Kathleen, they've been helping employers and benefit plan service providers navigate the complex legal requirements of employee benefit plans. They've got decades of experience in employee benefits law, and they've been guiding clients through compliance matters, corrections, IRS, and DOL audits. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about cafeteria plans, not that kind of cafeteria, a different one, and the compliance rules that apply to them. Ladies, it's good to see you as always. Kathleen, what is a cafeteria plan? Before I even say hello to you, what is a cafeteria plan?
Well, Mike, it's always a pleasure. Well, a cafeteria plan is basically just a way that an employer can offer its employees a selection of benefits on a pre-tax basis. Cafeteria plans are also known as flexible benefit plans or 125 plans after the code section. But if you kind of keep up with the cafeteria metaphor, you can imagine, an employee taking their tray along the line of in a cafeteria and saying, I want a little of that. Oh, I don't want that. Or I want, a double helping of that. And that's basically how it works is, the employee then is able to select between getting taxable cash, or they can get these other benefits on a pre-tax basis.
So Kathleen, then what benefits can be offered under this? You covered a little bit of it, but what let's dive deep into what benefits are offered in this.
Yeah. The basic one is pre-tax premium payment. And what that is the various insured benefits that an employer might offer, like health, dental, vision, life insurance, disability, where the employee has to pay a portion of the premium through a cafeteria plan. They can pay that on a pre-tax basis. So that's sort of like the standard basic benefit. But also things like flexible spending accounts, health flexible spending accounts, which will the employee gets to elect a certain amount that they think they're going to need to spend during the coming year on medical benefits or dental or vision. Then they can say, I want that much money taken out of my pay during the year, and then I will get reimbursed. It'll taken out pre-tax, and then I get reimbursed for those medical expenses. Same with, there's a dependent care flexible spending account. Similarly for, like childcare. The challenge, I should say, with those two types of accounts is that there's a use it or you lose it aspect, where if the employee miscalculates and doesn't spend, all of that much money on their medical benefits or their childcare benefits, then they will lose it. So they have to be very careful about the amount of money that they decide to put into those types of accounts. Also, health savings accounts, HSAs, those can be offered under a cafeteria plan. And there are some other benefits that are permitted, like adoption assistance. These are, the funds are kept in the general assets of the employer. And it sort of depends on, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but sometimes it can go back to the employer, and sometimes it can be used for other benefits. There's an aspect of ERISA and everything, but okay.
Well, I do want to get into the weeds, Kathleen. So let me ask you about the legal requirements for a cafeteria plan. Can you explain those?
Yeah, there aren't a lot in official guidance. We're still working with temporary regulations that were issued in 2007. So there's a lack of a lot of legal guidance on cafeteria plans, but you do have to have a written plan document. And that's even if you just have the pre-tax premium payment aspect of it. The employer is allowing employees to pay their premiums on a pre-tax basis. They need a plan document. The other thing is that cafeteria plans have a variety of non-discrimination requirements, so tests every year they have to run these tests to make sure that the highly compensated individuals are not getting more benefits than the non-highly compensated individuals. And then there's actually, for some benefits, like the health flexible spending account, because it is considered a health plan, it is subject to ERISA. The rest of the cafeteria plan isn't an ERISA plan. It's just a subject to the IRS requirements. But the health flexible spending account is subject to ERISA. So those are the legal requirements that really apply. And then there's a lot of gray area. So that's always.
Well, speaking of gray area, right? One of the things I remember always with having a W-2 job is getting these emails of like, hey, you can select your designations now. You can do all of these things. And I'm like, oh, it's mid-year. I just had a life change. I had something. When am I eligible to change my benefit elections? Within cafeteria plans, can eligible employees change their benefit elections at any time?
No, and that's one of the tricky things. All the employees' elections have to be made before the beginning of the coming year. So, and then they can't be changed until the next year, unless, as you mentioned, there are certain mid-year changes like a divorce or a dependent becoming old enough that they age out and they're no longer eligible for medical coverage. If there's a death, things like that. There's certain limited situations where an employee could make a mid-year change in their election. But any change in election has to be on account of one of these events and consistent with it. Like, for example, if your dependent gets too old for childcare, ages out of the dependent care aspect, you can decrease, but you can't increase. It has to be actually consistent with the change. I will say that for health savings accounts, those can be changed at any time during the year, if you want to put in more or less.
Kathleen, let me ask you, what other compliance issues do you see or have seen that can create problems for cafeteria plans?
Well, I think a big problem that I see frequently is on the non-discrimination testing. Sometimes no one is doing it, or they are having a lot of highly compensated individuals who are benefiting from this, from these benefits, and then they're failing their testing, and then they've got to fix it. The mid-year changes is always a big challenge because sometimes, an employee comes in and they need, they have a really compelling reason why they need to make a change to their election, but it's not something that's permitted under the rules. And that's always kind of a heartbreaking issue. And then the other issue is communication failures, where the employer is not actually communicating all the rules to the employees. And that creates a lot of problems, I think.
Kathleen, let me ask you, what should an employer that's maybe listening to this right now, what should they look at, or what would you recommend they look at first when they're reviewing whether the cafeteria plan is operating correctly?
Well, I think that what they need to do is they need to be aware of all these requirements we're talking about, so that they make sure that they have a written plan document, that they have a TPA who is not only doing the annual testing, but if they have a situation where they are aware they may not be passing testing, they might need to do mid-year testing just to see where they are, because then they have to do things like, if they fail the test, they're going to have to refund some of that money to those highly compensated individuals, adding income to those individuals who may not be happy about that. Or they may have to stop the highly compensated individuals at a certain point from participating for the same reason. I think that testing and making sure that they have procedures, that's a big one. Having procedures in place to make sure that they're able to manage those mid-year election changes. So they're sort of like, not just reacting to the situation, that they have procedures that they can refer to and be consistent in their administration.
So, Kathleen, as we wrap here, let me piggyback on that. How can employers keep their cafeteria plans administered so problems are less likely to happen down the road?
Well, I think working with their third-party administrator is really important. And hopefully they have a good one who can guide them as to making sure that they have all of these things in place. And then, I mean, as a lawyer, I think it's really important that if they end up having a problem or they are anticipating some sort of problem, is that they go and they seek legal counsel, because a lot of times, problems can be fixed because it was an administrative mistake, but it depends on what their plan document says. It depends on what the facts and circumstances are. So I think, having legal counsel to help when they kind of get out of their comfort zone is very important.
Yeah. Ladies, thank you as always for the time and insights around this topic. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
And thank you to everyone out there for listening to this installment of Employee Benefit Plans and Business Sense. Look, if your organization right now sponsors a cafeteria plan, you want to be sure it's operating correctly. You want to contact some legal counsel. I know two people. Visit klblawgroup.com to connect with Don and Kathleen. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and comment before you go, or share the episode with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Mike Leon. See everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.